Welcome back to the deep dive. I want you to do something for me. Just mentally walk into your kitchen
Okay, I'm there.
and open that one messy cabinet. You know the one I'm talking about, where you keep all the spices.
The one that's a total disaster zone. Got it.
Exactly. Now reach all the way to the back, behind the paprika from 2012, and grab that jar of bright yellow powder. Turmeric.
It's a staple. I mean, it gives curry its kick. It gives mustard that vibrant color. And if you're not careful,
Oh, yeah.
it gives your white t-shirt a permanent sort of tie-dye job you never asked for.
100%. To most of us, it's just that. It's a spice. Maybe, a trendy latte ingredient if you go to those kinds of
The
cafes.
golden latte, right?
But today, we're going to look at that powder and see something completely different. We're going to uncover what I'm calling a double agent in the world of chemistry and nutrition.
Double agent is actually the perfect way to frame this, because when you really dig into the literature, and we have a huge stack today, you realize this one molecule is playing on two very different, almost opposing teams.
Okay, so on Team A, we have the miracle worker.
Right.
This is the ancient healer. It's a potential cancer fighter. And as we're going to find out, a dental breakthrough that might just replace your harsh chemical mouthwash.
And then you've got Team B. Team B is E100.
E100.
It's a regulated industrial food additive. It's a chemical dye that European safety authorities are watching like a hawk because, and this is the crazy part, they're terrified we might be accidentally poisoning toddlers with it.
That's the tension we're navigating today. It's such a paradox. So we're going to unpack the chemical architecture of this molecule, specifically its star player, curcumin. We're going to look at the chemistry that makes it a superfood, the physics that makes it an absolute nightmare to actually get into your body, and the regulatory puzzle that suggests your kid's lemon yogurt might be a lot more complicated than you think.
And we are drawing from a really eclectic mix of sources to do it. I mean, it's all over the map. We have these deep phytochemical analyses from fisheries in the Himalayas.
It is wild.
It's wild. Then we have clinical dentistry reviews, some really heavy-duty crystallography papers on molecular engineering.
Yeah, that one's a dense one.
And then this massive exposure assessment from the EFSA, the European Food Safety Authority.
It's a lot of ground to cover. But I think we have to start with the raw material. Before we get into all the high-tech crystal hacking or, the government warnings, let's just look at what is actually in the root itself.
A source code.
Exactly. And honestly, the first study on our stack, it threw me for a total loop.
The one by Nazir and Shahan?
Yes,
Yeah.
because they weren't studying humans. They weren't even studying mice or lab rats. They were studying fish.
Right. This research came out of the College of Fisheries in Uttarakhand, India. And while it might seem like a total tangent, it's actually foundational to this whole story. They were analyzing Curcuma longa, that's turmeric, alongside garlic, to see if they could work as what they call phytobiotics.
Phytobiotics. I have to admit, that sounds like a marketing buzzword you'd see on a $12 smoothie.
It totally does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But in the context of aquaculture, of fish farming, it's a word born out of, frankly, desperate necessity.
How so?
You have to understand, modern fish farming is a pretty dirty business. You cram thousands of carp or tilapia into a tank, and disease just spreads like wildfire.
Right.
The traditional solution has been to just pump the water full of antibiotics.
Which we know is terrible for the environment and, helps create superbugs.
Exactly. So the entire industry is on this desperate hunt for eco-friendly alternatives. And their big question was, if we feed the fish turmeric and garlic, can we boost their immune systems naturally? Can we finally ditch the drugs?
And to figure that out, they had to, take the turmeric apart, piece by piece.
Literally.
Yeah.
They did what's called a qualitative phytochemical analysis.
Yeah.
And this is where I kind of got stuck. Because I, like most people, always thought turmeric is good for you because it has curcumin. End of story.
That's the headline, yeah.
That's the headline everyone knows. But when you look at this analysis, you realize curcumin is just the front man of a very, very large and complicated band.
So it's not a solo act.
Not even close. It's a chemical cocktail. I mean, the analysis found saponins, tannins, alkaloids, flavonoids, steroids, proteins, ketones. The list just goes on.
Okay, I want to pause on a few of those because they sound like things I should be cleaning my floor with, not, eating. Saponins, that sounds like soap.
That's because it comes from the Latin word sapo, which means soap. Saponins are natural surfactants. If you put them in water and you shake them up, they foam.
Why on earth does a plant produce its own soap?
It's all about self-defense. Imagine you're a bacteria or a fungus and you're trying to attack the turmeric root in the soil. Well, bacteria have cell membranes made of lipids fats. Saponins interact with those lipids. They disrupt the surface tension of the membrane. Essentially, the plant is using chemical warfare to punch holes in the invader's cell wall.
Whoa. So when we eat turmeric, we are ingesting microscopic soap that's designed to bust up bacteria.
In a manner of speaking, yes. It disrupts the structural integrity of the pathogen. It's a first line of defense. And then you have the tannins.
Okay, those are the things in, like, red wine that make your mouth feel all dry and fuzzy, right?
Correct. They're astringent. But biologically, tannins are incredible binders. Their whole job is to precipitate proteins.
What does that mean, precipitate proteins?
It means they make proteins clump together and fall out of solution. So if a virus or a bacteria enters the plant system, the tannins can bind to the proteins on their surface, effectively throwing a net over them.
So they immobilize the threat.
They immobilize it, they neutralize it, so the rest of the plant's immune system can come in and clean up the mess.
It's fascinating to think about. We just see this inert yellow powder, but at the molecular level, it's a coordinated defense system. You've got soap to punch holes, nets to trap invaders.
It's an entire army in a root. And the study confirmed it works in the fish. The fish that were fed with these phytobiotics, they showed improved growth rates and, crucially, enhanced non-specific immune parameters.
Non-specific meaning.
Right.
It didn't just fight one particular disease, it just sort of boosted the whole system.
Exactly. It ramped up the baseline defense. It made the fish more resilient to everything. And this is why the leap from a carp in a pond in India to a human in New York isn't as crazy as it sounds.
Right.
The basic cellular machinery of life, membranes, proteins, inflammation, it's surprisingly conserved across species. If it protects a fish's liver, there's a very good chance it's doing something similar for ours too.
Which brings us perfectly, actually, to the next source, and frankly the most confusing one for me personally. We're moving from the fish tank to the dentist's chair. Review by Nagpal and Sood focuses on turmeric in dentistry.
And why is that confusing to you?
Because turmeric stains everything it touches. I mean, if I spill a drop of curry on my kitchen counter, it's yellow for a week. The idea of deliberately putting that in my mouth to clean my teeth, it feels like washing your car with mud.
It is the ultimate paradox, I agree. You are using one of the world's most potent natural dyes to try and improve your oral hygiene. But the research suggests that the medicinal properties are so powerful they might outweigh the cosmetic risks. Or at least the benefits are worth navigating the mess.
So what did they find? They compared a turmeric mouthwash directly against chlorhexidine. And for listeners who haven't had, major dental work, chlorhexidine is basically the nuclear option, isn't it?
It is the absolute gold standard. If you have severe periodontitis, deep gum pockets, or a major post-surgery infection risk, your dentist prescribes chlorhexidine. It is a broad-spectrum antiseptic. It kills everything.
Like, it's harsh.
It's very harsh. It tastes awful. It can alter your taste buds for days. And ironically, to your point about staining long-term use of chlorhexidine, causes significant brown stains on your teeth.
So the chemical cleaner turns your teeth brown, but the yellow root, what did the yellow root do?
They cited a study where a mouthwash was made with just 10 milligrams of curcumin extract. It was tested against chlorhexidine in a clinical trial, and the result was statistical equivalence.
Equivalence. You mean it worked just as well?
Just as well. It reduced plaque accumulation, and it reduced gingival inflammation with the same efficacy as the heavy-duty chemical, but without all those harsh side effects.
That is just, it's wild. But the review went even deeper than just general cleaning. It started talking about something called the Red Complex. Now that sounds like a villain organization in a spy thriller.
And in the ecosystem of your mouth, they are the villains. The Red Complex refers to a specific trio of bacteria: Porphyromonas gingivalis, Treponema denticola, and Tannarella forsythia.
The unholy trinity of gum disease.
Precisely. These are not just the kind of bacteria that cause cavities. These are the pathogens responsible for severe destructive periodontitis. The kind where the gums pull away from the teeth, the bone itself starts to degrade, and you ultimately lose your teeth. They are incredibly destructive.
And turmeric can fight them.
It seems to. The review highlighted a fantastic type of study called a split mouth study.
Okay, what's that?
It's a great experimental design where you treat one side of a patient's mouth with one method and the other side of the same patient's mouth with a different method. It perfectly controls for the patient's own immune system, their diet, everything.
So you're your own control group.
Exactly. So in this study, one side of the mouth got the standard deep cleaning, what's called scaling and root planing, and the other side got the same cleaning, plus a 2% whole turmeric gel that was applied locally right into the gum pockets. The side with the turmeric showed a significantly greater reduction in pocket depth. The gums healed tighter to the teeth, but more importantly, it showed a massive reduction in something called trypsin-like enzyme activity.
Okay, simplify that for me. What is trypsin-like enzyme activity?
Think of it as the weapon the bacteria use. These red complex bacteria, they release these specific enzymes to digest your gum tissue. They were literally eating the connective tissue that holds your teeth in place.
That's horrifying.
It is. And the turmeric gel suppressed that enzyme activity. It essentially disarmed the bacteria.
So it doesn't just kill them, it takes away their spoon.
That's a vivid way to put it, but yes, that's basically it. And because we know curcumin is also a potent anti-inflammatory, it helps the tissue itself calm down and heal faster after the professional cleaning.
The review also listed a whole bunch of what it called systemic superpowers. We know it's an antioxidant, but the one that really stood out to me was hepatoprotection, liver protection.
This is a crucial area of research, and it goes back to what we saw in the fish. The liver is the body's main filtration plant. It has to handle every toxin you ingest.
Right.
The review cited studies showing that turmeric could protect the liver from something called carbon tetrachloride.
What on earth is carbon tetrachloride?
It's a nasty industrial solvent, used to be in dry cleaning fluids, refrigeration. It is incredibly toxic to the liver.
Yeah.
So toxic, in fact, that scientists actually use it in lab rats to intentionally cause liver failure so they can test protective drugs.
Right.
It is the benchmark for liver destruction.
And turmeric stopped it.
It significantly mitigated the damage. It also showed protection against acetaminophen, common Tylenol, which we all know could destroy the liver in high doses. The mechanism seems to be that curcumin prevents the formation of pro-inflammatory cytokines in the liver. It basically keeps the liver calm when it's under chemical stress.
Okay, so let's just recap Team A, the miracle worker. We have a root that boosts the entire immune system in fish using molecular warfare. It fights the absolute worst gum disease bacteria known to dentistry, and it protects the liver from industrial-grade poisons.
When you lay it all out like that, it sounds like a wonder drug.
So here's my question, the obvious question. If this stuff is so incredibly good, why isn't it the standard of care? Why doesn't my doctor hand me a prescription for curcumin 500 milligrams and tell me to call him in the morning? Why are we still messing around with curry powder?
That is the million-dollar question, and the answer really lies in physics. And this is where we have to talk about the brick dust problem.
Brick dust? That does not sound appetizing or effective.
No, it's a term that pharmaceutical scientists use to describe drugs that have terrible, terrible solubility. And curcumin is the undisputed king of brick dust. It hates water. It is hydrophobic to an almost unbelievable degree.
Give me a visual here. Just how bad is it?
So the study by Sam Fui and his colleagues, the crystallography paper, gives us the hard numbers. The aqueous solubility of curcumin is approximately 8.7 milligrams per liter.
8.7 milligrams per liter.
Okay, so imagine you have a big 1-liter Nalgene water bottle.
Got it.
Now imagine taking a tiny pinch of yellow powder, the size of just a few grains of sand, and dropping it in. Even that microscopic amount wouldn't fully dissolve. So if you dumped a whole teaspoon in, 99.9% of it would just float on top or sink to the bottom. It would stay a solid powder.
And if it stays a solid powder?
Your body can't use it. We are, at our core, biological bags of water. For a drug to get from your stomach into your bloodstream, it generally needs to dissolve in your intestinal fluids. If it's a brick, it stays a brick. It passes right through you and, well, it exits the building completely unused.
So all those incredible health benefits we just talked about, the liver protection, the anti-cancer potential, that's all kind of theoretical if it can't even get into the blood in the first place.
Exactly. This is the great disconnect in nutrition. Natural does not mean bioavailable. You can eat a mountain of turmeric powder, but you might only absorb a microscopic, pharmacologically insignificant fraction of it.
Okay.
And frankly, the story gets even worse from there.
Worse than not dissolving. How can it get worse?
Oh, much worse. Let's say by some miracle you manage to dissolve a little bit. You force it into the system. The curcumin molecule is chemically unstable at physiological pH.
Meaning? Inside the conditions of the human body.
Right. Your blood and your tissues, they're slightly alkaline, around a pH of 7.4. In those conditions, the curcumin molecule just starts to degrade. It literally falls apart.
Oh, come on.
No, really. One of the studies cited in our stack showed a 90% decomposition within 30 minutes.
Wait, hold on, let me get this straight. So I struggle to get this stuff dissolved in the first place. I finally get a tiny, tiny bit into my bloodstream, and then within half an hour, it basically self-destructs.
It spontaneously decomposes.
Yeah.
And if that wasn't a big enough hurdle, you have the liver again. But this time, the liver isn't being protected. The liver is the enemy.
What do you mean?
The liver's job is to detoxify. It identifies curcumin as a foreign substance, a xenobiotic, and it performs a process called glucuronidation.
Sounds complicated.
It basically just tags the curcumin molecule with a glucuronic acid marker, which is like a big, bright chemical flag that tells the kidneys, get this out of here now.
Yeah.
The metabolic elimination is incredibly fast and efficient.
This poor molecule cannot catch a break. It won't dissolve, it falls apart if it does, and if it survives all that, the liver hunts it down and evicts it immediately. It's amazing it has any biological effect at all.
And that's why the research results can be so maddeningly inconsistent. One study shows a miracle, the next one shows absolutely nothing. It likely all comes down to the delivery system and how much actually survived that gauntlet of absorption.
So how do we fix it? I mean, this is the whole point of that Sanfui paper, right? Crystal engineering. It sounds like something out of science fiction. Are they like rebuilding the molecule atom by atom?
Not the molecule itself. They're rebuilding its house. They're creating something called co-crystals.
Okay, explain that to me like I'm 5. Is that just mixing 2 different powders together in a jar?
No, and that's a really crucial distinction. If I mix sugar and salt in a bowl, I just have a physical mixture. They're still individual sugar and salt crystals.
Right.
A co-crystal is when you take your active molecule, in this case curcumin, and you pair it with another different molecule they call a co-former, and you force them to lock together in a repeating, ordered pattern at the atomic level.
So they're holding hands molecularly.
Like molecular Lego blocks clicking together to form a brand new unified structure. In this study, they took curcumin and they paired it with 2 different partners, resorcinol and pyrogallo.
Resorcinol sounds like something from a chemical weapons depot.
It sounds scary, but it's actually fairly common. It's on the FDA's GRAS list, generally regarded as safe. Pyrogallo is actually the more interesting one because it has its own anti-cancer properties. So the scientists call that specific one a drug-drug co-crystal. You have 2 active players on the same team.
So how do they get them to click together? Do you need a giant particle accelerator or something?
It's shockingly, almost laughably, low-tech. They use a method called liquid-assisted grinding.
Which sounds suspiciously like making a paste with a mortar and pestle.
That's basically what it is. They put the 2 powders in a mortar, add a few drops of ethanol to act as a lubricant, and they just grind. The mechanical force, the shearing and friction, plus that tiny bit of solvent, it breaks the original crystal structures of the 2 ingredients and encourages the molecules to find each other and reassemble in this new engineered partnership.
And does this molecular matchmaking, does it actually solve the brick dust problem?
It changes the game completely. When they analyzed the new crystals, they found something fascinating about the shape of the curcumin molecule inside the new structure. They found it had become planar.
Planar meaning flat.
Yes. In its natural, stable, won't dissolve form, the curcumin molecule's a bit twisted. But in these co-crystals, it's forced to flatten out. And in chemistry, shape determines function. This new flat shape, combined with the chemical properties of its new partner, skyrocketed the dissolution rate.
Okay, give me the stats. How much faster are we talking?
The curcumin resorcinol co-crystal, the one with the safe partner, it dissolved about 5 times faster than raw curcumin.
That's pretty good.
It's good. But the curcumin pyrogallo co-crystal, the drug one, it dissolved 12 times faster.
12 times faster. That's the difference between waiting for a glacier to melt and watching an ice cube drop into a cup of hot tea.
It is a massive, massive difference. Because dissolution is what's called the rate-limiting step. If you can get it to dissolve almost instantly in the stomach, you can flood the absorption window in the intestine before the liver even has a chance to mount a defense and clear it out. You overwhelm the system. This is the real frontier of making superfoods into actual reliable medicine.
So we have scientists in high-tech labs grinding crystals to force more of this amazing compound into our bodies because they believe it saves lives. But now, now we have to flip the coin completely over.
Yeah.
Because while one entire group of scientists is working overtime to get more curcumin into us, another group, an equally smart group, is looking at the exact same molecule and worrying that we might already be getting too much.
And enter the double agent again. Now we have to stop talking about curcumin, the therapeutic molecule, and start talking about E100.
And E100 is just the regulatory code name for curcumin when it's used as a food coloring, right?
Correct. When it's in your curry, it's a spice. When it's used to make a lemon tart look more yellow, it's E100, a food additive. And additives are regulated by very strict safety limits.
This brings us to the EFSA, the European Food Safety Authority. They released this massive document called a Refined Exposure Assessment. And I have to tell you, reading this report genuinely changed the way I look at the grocery store.
It is a sobering document. The EFSA's entire job is to determine the ADI, the acceptable daily intake for these additives. Basically, how much of this stuff can you eat every single day for your whole life without any appreciable health risk?
And for curcumin, they set that limit at
3 milligrams per kilogram of body weight per day.
Okay, let's do some quick napkin math on that. If I'm a 70-kilogram adult, that's about 155 pounds. So 70 times 3. That means my safe limit is 210 milligrams a day.
Which is a decent amount. And the EFSA found that for the general adult population and for the elderly, there's really no concern. Our intake from food is well below that limit. But the story changes completely when you look at the little ones.
The toddlers.
Toddlers, specifically kids age 1 to 3 years old. A toddler might only weigh, say, 12 kilograms.
So their limit is tiny. 12 times 3. That's just 36 milligrams. That is their absolute ceiling.
Exactly. 36 milligrams a day before they start to enter the unsafe zone, according to the regulators.
Well, where on earth is this E100 coming from? I mean, I don't know many 2-year-olds who are demanding a spicy vindaloo for dinner.
And that's the absolute catch. The EFSA report explicitly states that natural intake from spices is minor. The problem isn't the curry, it's the processed food. E100 is the go-to cheap natural yellow dye for the modern food industry.
So where is it hiding?
Everywhere a kid looks. Fine bakery wares. So that means yellow cookies, wafers, biscuits, flavored fermented milk products. So think banana yogurt, custard, those little dairy drinks.
My kid lives on that stuff.
Of course. Edible ices, desserts, processed meats, even surimi, imitation crab meat. If it's yellow and it comes in a crinkly package, there's a very good chance it's colored with E100.
And toddlers live on those food groups. Yogurt and cookies are the mainstays for a lot of kids.
Which leads to the scenario that the EFSA is most worried about. They call it the brand loyal scenario.
That sounds like a marketing term, but coming from a safety report, it sounds kind of ominous. What does that mean?
It means they assume that a child is a creature of habit.
Yeah.
They don't just eat any yogurt.
Yeah.
They eat that specific brand of yellow banana yogurt every single day.
Right.
And they eat that specific brand of lemon cookie after school. And if those specific brands that the child is loyal to happen to use the maximum allowed amount of E100 in their recipe,
then the kid is in trouble.
The simulation showed that in that brand loyal scenario, toddlers and children were exceeding the ADI. They were consistently consuming more than the established safe limit.
This is a paradox that is making my head spin. We just spent 20 minutes discussing how this molecule fights cancer, protects the liver from poison, and saves your teeth from gum disease. How can it possibly be unsafe for a toddler to eat a yellow cookie?
It's the first and most important rule of toxicology. Sola dosis facit venenum. The dose makes the poison.
Right.
Even water can kill you if you drink enough of it. But there's a secondary, much more subtle layer to this paradox that connects right back to our crystal hackers.
How so?
Think about it. That ADI, that safe limit of 3 milligaules, it was calculated based on toxicology studies using standard, poorly absorbed brick dust curcumin. The regulators know the absorption is terrible. In fact, the safety limit relies on it.
So the safety calculation assumes that most of the E100 in that cookie is just going to pass right through the kid without being absorbed?
Exactly. That poor bioavailability is a built-in safety feature. But what happens when the food industry starts using the new and improved curcumin? What happens if a food dye company starts making a co-crystal version because it's 12 times more soluble and it gives a brighter, more stable color in yogurt?
Suddenly, that toddler isn't just eating a harmless yellow dye. They're absorbing a pharmacological dose of a potent, biologically active drug directly into their bloodstream from their afternoon snack.
Precisely. We are working so hard to make it more bioavailable for cancer patients, but in doing so, we might be completely destroying the safety margin for food additives. If E100 becomes super E100, that entire ADI calculation becomes worthless. We'd have to start all over again.
That is genuinely terrifying. And the EFSA report had one more weird twist, didn't it? Something about an analytical gap.
Yes, this was a real mystery they found in the data. The EFSA basically went to the food industry and said, tell us, how much E100 do you put in your food? and the industry reported their maximum usage levels.
We use up to X amount in this category of food.
Right. But then the individual member states, countries like Germany, France, Hungary, they actually went to the grocery stores, bought the yogurts and the cookies, took them back to their government labs, and tested them.
And what did they find?
Almost nothing. In many of the food categories, the levels of curcumin they found were non-detectable or extremely low, far below what the industry claimed they were using.
Right, so the industry says we use a lot, but the lab tests say there's almost none here. Why the huge discrepancy? Is the industry lying?
It's highly unlikely they're lying about using too much. It doesn't make sense. It's more likely that the industry reports the absolute legal maximum they could use just to cover their bases legally. But there's another possibility.
Which is?
The labs might have missed the niche products.
The brand loyal problem again?
Exactly. Maybe the generic supermarket brand yogurt has very little curcumin, but maybe that one specific imported lemon wafer that a particular child loves is absolutely loaded with it. If the government lab doesn't happen to randomly select that specific wafer for testing, the overall data looks clean, but the risk is still there for the kid who eats it every day.
So the regulators have to be conservative. They have to assume the worst case scenario is happening somewhere.
They have to. You can't gamble with child safety based on incomplete data. So they look at the industry's maximum use levels, they look at the brand loyal kid, and they say, there is a potential risk here that we need to flag.
It really highlights how disconnected these different scientific worlds are. You have the crystal engineers in one silo, grinding powders to make them more potent for medicine. You have the dentists in another silo, using it to fight bacteria. And you have the food regulators in a third, worrying about yellow cookies. And they're all staring at the exact same molecule, but seeing three completely different things.
A drug, a dye, and a crystal. And as we move forward, especially with technology, these worlds are going to collide even more forcefully. I mean, the outline mentioned nanocurcumin as the next frontier.
Nanocurcumin, that sounds even more sci-fi than co-crystals.
It's polymeric nanoparticle encapsulated curcumin. It's an even more advanced, even more targeted delivery system. The main goal there is cancer therapy. You could theoretically design these nanoparticles to only release the curcumin when they're inside a tumor cell.
Which would be an incredible breakthrough.
Incredible. But again, you have to ask, what happens if that food-grade nanotechnology leaks from the pharmaceutical world into the food supply?
We will have to rewrite the entire rulebook. You might get to a point where you need a strict legal separation between medical-grade curcumin and food-grade curcumin, because as we engineer nature to make it more potent, we inadvertently make our snacks more biologically active. So when you boil it all down, what's the big takeaway for someone listening today? We've covered fish immunity, the red complex bacteria, crystal grinding, and toddler cookies. It's a lot to process.
I think the main takeaway is a newfound respect for complexity. We'd love to put things in simple boxes. Turmeric is a superfood, or E100 is a chemical additive. But they're the same thing. It all depends on dose and delivery.
It's a powerful reminder that nature is messy. It doesn't really care about our neat little categories.
And it's a reminder that natural doesn't mean simple or even safe in any quantity. This one root contains a pharmacy's worth of different compounds that interact with our bodies in ways we are still just beginning to map out. We can hack it with crystals, we can regulate it with laws, but at the end of the day, the biology rules all.
So as a final thought then, a provocative one for you to consider. If we succeed, if these crystal engineers and nanotechnologists make curcumin 100% bioavailable, will we have to drastically lower the acceptable daily intake for it as a food additive?
That's the question, isn't it?
As we make nature's medicine more potent, do we risk making our snacks more dangerous?
It's a balancing act we're going to be dealing with for decades.
Something to think about the next time you see E100 on a label. Or order a curry. Remember the battle going on at the molecular level? A compound trying to be a crystal, a liver trying to destroy it, and a scientist somewhere trying to hack it.
And maybe, just maybe, check the label on that yellow yogurt if you have a toddler at home.
Good advice. It's been a fascinating look into the double life of the golden spice.
My pleasure. It was a great dive.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.